Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matata, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Aria.
And welcome to episode number 091 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at both Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from 41 years and 1 day ago, April 30th, 1983. My name is Aria, and welcome to the show. So, hey, it's May 1st. Now, undoubtedly, if you're on social media, and, at this point, the number of people who aren't on social media and are under the age of, 50 is absurdly low, I'm sure. Everyone has some form of social media, so I can't imagine, if you are living, breathing, and listening to the sound of my voice, that you have not seen this meme yet. But yes, to misquote an NSYNC song, it's gonna be May. And it is May. So May 1st has a different special meaning to me. And, I just want to throw this out here quickly. Today, as most of you are listening to this, May 1st, is my transiversary. And now you might be like, what the hell is that? Technically, that might be a word that I made up. It might be, but it was on this day, 8 years ago, May 1st, 2016, that I fluttered out of the closet as the fantabulous person that we all know and kind of love. And, I haven't looked back since. And I was, you want to say blessed, you want to say whatever. I have an absurdly great group of friends and an absurdly great circle of people in my life. And it has made transitioning is not easy no matter what, but in comparison to a lot of other people, I've had a fairly simple and easy transition. Because here's the thing, everybody who was my friend on April 30th, 2016 was still my friend, family member, and loved me on May 1st, 2016. And if any of those people are not currently in my circle on May 1st, 2024, it's not because I'm trans. It's just because, people have a falling out. But, that's why when people say to me, it must be tough or might be this, it's like, honestly, here's the truth. And this is the way I always looked at it. Like, yes, I get a lot of shit online just for existing. Guilty as charged. But the way I've always looked at it is, if every single person in my life that I cared about continued to love and support me after I fluttered out of the closet, why would I give a flying fuck what a random person that I either don't know or don't care about has to say about me? And I seriously wish that more people had that. And unfortunately, they don't. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. And it really fucking sucks. Because let's be honest, if there's anybody out there listening to me right now that is anti-trans people, why? In all honesty, ask yourself, why? Why would my decision to transition, which by the way doesn't affect you in the least, why would that be something that you have to rage against? Live and let live. Just breathe in, breathe out. Let the world move on, and we'll all just live to be happy another day, you know? And, let's be happy and talk about some old ass pro wrestling, because who doesn't love old ass pro wrestling? I love it. I'm sure you love it if you're listening to me talk about it. Because God knows there's 8 bajillion podcasts out there, and yeah, my listener numbers, they suck. They're getting better. They suck. Let's be honest here. But those who listen to me, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really do. I do want to just mention here that I do drop lately. I've been dropping a lot of bonus shows, and I guess I only dropped one this week, the top 7 at 7, where I did a Sunday morning countdown of the 7 TV main events from last week. I actually did get some good feedback, and there's a very good chance I'm going to do it again in the future. It will not be this weekend, because this weekend I'm going to go to Albany for the TNA show and the TNA TV tapings on Saturday. So if you see somebody there who looks like me wearing a Buffalo Bills hoodie, it's probably me. Now, here's the funny thing is, and hopefully history does not repeat itself. Some of our incredibly long-time listeners might recall that I used to have a co-host. His name is KJ. The last time TNA was in Albany was for the Bound for Glory show in 2022 that I went to. And that was also the week that we stopped producing podcasts, him and I. It ended. We never actually, there is still a mysterious episode number 16 that never got posted. I don't even, one of these years I should try to find it and drop it, because that's like the ultimate lost episode in the Something Else Empire. But, he just wasn't a fan of it, and I was having my own issues at the time. And so I ended up coming back a few months later, just me, and that's how we got to this point. And hopefully, tap on wood, as I tap on my laptop, which is not made out of wood, that does not happen again, and I'll be here next week with a big goofy smile on my face. I may do a bonus show just as a, hey, we're here from Albany kind of thing, but no guarantees. And I imagine most of y'all listening are like, if you do it, great. If you don't do it, it's okay. But let's jump in here. It's April 30th, 1983. We're going to start with Mid-South Wrestling, and we're going to be talking about some Superdome here. So let's go to the intro with Boyd Pierce and Bill Watts to talk about this week's episode.
South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and we'll have a lot of exciting action right here to show you. Not only that, but we're going to show you something really interesting. Great matches direct from the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana at the Extravaganza. A man to tell you about it, Cowboy Bill Watts. Bill?
Well, Boyd, I know you always enjoy going to the Superdome. I think anybody that's not seen it has missed a tremendous situation. And, of course, we had 20,141 people for the largest crowd ever in an April Superdome. And Greg Soley, the son of Gordon Soley, the Atlanta commentator, shot some tremendous footage. He put some to music about people coming to the Superdome just at dusk, just as the sun was going down and people were starting to turn their car lights on. Let's watch that now.
We don't need to watch that. Well, we don't need to listen to it anyway, because it's literally just music over shots of people coming to the arena, or the stadium at least. So that's the big thing today, at least, part of the big thing today is we're going to be talking about matches from the Superdome. The recent Superdome show, which had the Junkyard Dog Mr. Olympia North American title match. And Watts said the attendance was 20,141, said it was the biggest attendance for an April Superdome show. And it's important to remember, because, 20,000 people in the Superdome, it really doesn't sound like much. I mean, it's a lot more than when WCW put 3,000 people in for that Clash of the Champions with Flair and Steamboat. But, it doesn't sound like much. Except when you think about, now WrestleMania, which, did 60 or so thousand people. All in London when they did 80,000 people, or however many people were really fucking there. I'm not going to fucking argue with people here. You have a lot of traveling shows. The 20,000 people, sure. There were, I'm sure, 100 people who, came from out of the area, or, were, observer readers, or I don't know if the torch was around then. I don't really know that history, but, I'm sure there were 50 to 100 people who were not from the general area that came in, because they knew about it and it was a big event, that kind of thing. But for the most part, that 20,141 or whatever the actual attendance is, 99% at least was local to New Orleans. Like I'd imagine within, 50 miles of New Orleans. And they show the video, and part of the video, they show cars arriving at the Superdome. And I noted that when I went to New Orleans for WrestleMania 30, I was shocked at just how easy it was to just walk to the stadium. Because, like, legitimately, like, I don't think, okay, with the exception of MetLife, because our hotel was, like, right there. With the exception of MetLife, literally every other stadium I've been to for WrestleMania, and I'm just going through the list in my head now, it's like you really didn't have a choice but to take some sort of transportation there. It would have been next to impossible to just walk it. But New Orleans, like, I can't tell you, it's downtown New Orleans, because it's not really downtown. It's a little off. It's like a mile walk from Bourbon Street. Like, but it's like, literally, it's so easy to just walk to. And the other thing I remember is just how fucking small the hallways are. And they showed videos of the hallways here, which, and I'll be honest, is a lot easier for 20,000 people to walk through the hallways than 60,000. But yeah, I was just getting memories of it here. And the last note I noted of it was it only cost $5 to go to this Superdome show in 1983, which adjusted for inflation, I didn't pull out the inflation calculator, but usually like 2 to 3 times that amount. So between $10 and $15 in today's money to go to the Superdome show in 83. And for comparison's sake, my ticket to WrestleMania 30 was $150 each. So yeah. They did interview some fans asking what they were looking forward to. And the funny thing is, this is not the Peacock WWE Network version of it. This is, the actual TV version that you can find online. And so this is the actual music that played, the actual audio. Like, you could not hear the people in the background. Like, the saxophone music that Soli had playing was so goddamn loud, you could not hear, what the hell these people that they're interviewing were saying. And the one I did hear was this one kid said that he was here to see Junkyard Dog kick Olympia's ass. So there you go. All right, so as we know, the main event of the Superdome show was Mr. Olympia versus Junkyard Dog for the North American title. However, in the days before the Superdome show, the tag team titles changed hands, as we talked about a few weeks ago, with Ted DiBiase and Mr. Olympia winning the belts, and that led to a change in the card. Let's go to Bill Watts to talk about some of the stuff that happened.
Well, some things happened in this Superdome that have never happened before. First of all, there was new Mid-South Tag Team Champions crowned 3 days before the Dome. The match was changed at the Dome, and they were forced to defend their titles. And then, for the first time ever in the history of wrestling, there was an unadvertised steel cage match. This has never happened, that they've had a steel cage match without it being advertised. It was like a bonus that nobody knew was going to happen in the Superdome. Let's see how that transpired as we watch, first of all, the Mid-South Tag Team Champions defend their titles.
Okay, so we have an unadvertised cage match, and we'll get to the specifics of that here in a second. But so for the first time ever, they did not advertise that a steel cage match was going to happen. Honestly, I don't really know if that was necessarily an awful idea. I mean, typically it obviously would be, because hey, you hear, a big rivalry is going to culminate in a cage match. It might get more people to come out and shell out their $5 for this big match. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, I'm going to spoil it. The Junkyard Dog Mr. Olympia match ends up in the cage. It's like that feud is so new, and I guess it doesn't. I guess that's not as much of a a knock as it makes it sound like. But the feud is so new. It's like they had that one match at the end of the North American title tournament, but it's not like this is a lengthy feud like the DiBiase Dog feud has been going on forever, and that could have used a cage match to just finally, slam the door shut on that one. But, it's so new that I don't know if saying that what is literally the first match of the feud is going to be a cage match. I don't know if that really would have gotten more people to go out. But the one thing that this does do is you get to say, hey, by missing it, you missed out on this cage match. So next time, go. You may see something you did not expect to see. And, you don't want to be the person who misses it when your friends and family are talking about it tomorrow morning. But with that, let's go to the Superdome for our first match. It is tag team champions Ted DiBiase and Mr. Olympia with General Skandor Akbar versus Mr. Wrestling 2 and Tiger Conway Jr. Boyd Pierce was the ring announcer, and Bill Watts does solo commentary for this. Now, this was not the full match, but they did show a good bit of it, starting with the faces running wild on DiBiase. They showed Conway hitting both heels with repeated arm drags. Now, while as I describe this, it might sound a little dull, and I can tell you that this crowd was losing their shit over this match. And as we've noted before, hey, if you can make the crowd happy doing basic shit, then you don't need to kill yourself. And that's not a knock to anybody. But I'm saying it was easier in 1983 to get a pop off of an arm drag than you would in 2024. Like, legitimately, like, to get the crowd going as ape shit for an arm drag by established talent. And I get, like, okay, if you bring a celebrity who suddenly does an arm drag, like, hey, that might be a big deal. But, it would probably take 3 to 5 years of cutting out anything that in 2024 would be considered exciting to get a crowd that's going to go ape shit for arm drags. Let's be honest. These days are over, but it's always fun to go back and reminisce. With that said, Olympia was getting his ass kicked, and DiBiase protested by standing on the ropes. So Conway calmly walked over and slammed him off the top rope. According to Bill, the match went over 25 minutes. Conway goes for a monkey flip, but Olympia blocks it and used a hot shot. Conway fights out of a sleeper hold. But there's no tag as 2 and DiBiase just get in the ring and start fighting. Conway got on a Boston Crab, but the referee was busy dragging Mr. Wrestling 2 out of the ring. So DiBiase loaded his glove and knocked Conway the fuck out. And because Olympia couldn't just pin him, Olympia had to put on his move. He's the Triple H of 1983. Mr. Olympia slaps on the sleeper hold and picks up the win. So Mr. Olympia and Ted DiBiase still your Mid-South Tag Team Champions. All right. So one of the big unknown things the past couple of weeks has been what's going on with Jim Duggan. Really, the last time we saw him on the show was when he kicked Matt Bourne out of the Rat Pack. And then it was shortly after that when DiBiase aligned with General Skandor Akbar after months of telling Duggan that there's nothing between, DiBiase and Akbar, that he had nothing to do with Akbar running in that time with Kamala, attacking Mr. Wrestling 2. He had nothing to do with any of this shit. Just trust me, Duggan. So we haven't heard from Duggan since this happened. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to hear what Jim Duggan has to say. Let's go now to Bill Watts, who's going to pitch it to Hacksaw Duggan to discuss what's going on with Ted DiBiase and General Skandor Akbar.
Well, DiBiase's association with Skandor Akbar and Mr. Olympia may be the beginning of the end for the Rat Pack, because one very independent, outspoken member apparently is not going to follow the Big Cheese's lead. Let's listen to Hacksaw Duggan.
Now, you people look out here and see right now Hacksaw Duggan stands out here. He looks a little rejected, a little dejected, a little disappointed. A little disappointed in a friend of mine. A man that stood behind my back, shoulder to shoulder with me at times. A man that stood right here in this spot, on this very ground, looked me right in the eye, face to face, took my hand and said, Hacksaw, Ted DiBiase won't have nothing to do with Skandor Akbar. Well, you lied, Teddy. You lied to me. You took my hand, you took my friendship, and you lied. Yeah, we've been through some tough times. We've been in some rough jams together, and we pulled out of it. But just when you say you're going to shoot straight with Hacksaw and you pull something like this, go your way, DiBiase. Go your way, and I'll go mine. Let's our paths not cross. Remember the good times. But Skandor Akbar, people just don't realize how rotten you are. Since I've come to Mid-South, since I've come here, I've had nothing to do with you because I could see through your phony, baloney crap. I know what kind of man you are. I know about how you get your money, where you get your oil money, and the type of people you associate with. Let me tell you something. A lot of people might not agree with the way I look or the way I act. But I'm going to tell you something. Nobody in this country will deny me the right to act the way I want and to be what I want to be. You come around here, Akbar, and I'm a proud man, and I'm proud to be an American. Let me tell you something. You got those ties with them oil people, and that man from Iran, that sheik, there's something very personal in my history of my family that's going back a long way, Akbar, and I'm going to take it out on you once and for all.
Boyd, I don't think Skandor Akbar or anybody else takes Hacksaw Jim Duggan's words lightly. Anybody he's threatened, he has gone after.
Okay, so we finally get the promo with Jim Duggan, and it's not quite the fuck Ted DiBiase promo that I think a lot of us were expecting, but it was a strong promo. You know, he's disappointed in DiBiase. It's like, you know, your parents are never mad at you. Your parents are just disappointed in your actions and your behavior. And so, you know, he lied. He took Duggan's hand, he took Duggan's friendship, and he lied. And so Duggan wants them to remember the good times, just go their separate ways, let bygones be bygones, let everyone be happy and do what the hell you want to do, and we just go from here. However, he can't do that with Akbar. And he starts yelling at Akbar about the way he makes his money and the people he associates with. And he mentions, without going into detail yet, that there's something personal about what went on with his family in the past, which is why he doesn't like Akbar. The weird thing, and I don't know if they were, you know, I'd like to believe that they were setting up for a return of the Iron Sheik, you know, and that's why he's being mentioned all the time. But, you know, Sheik, we talked about Sheik in our original handful of episodes. He was feuding with fucking Paul Ellering, you know, if you've been around that long that you remember. And then he left, and he hasn't been back. And unless there's something I'm missing, and I don't think there is, he's not coming back. And I'm actually, while I'm ranting and raving, you know, I'm going to look this up here. So I'm thinking it's possible that he was supposed to. And, you know, because this is around the time, you know, Vince has bought the WWF. Vince Jr. has bought the WWF, but at this point, it's a secret. Nobody knows that he's bought the WWF yet. However, you know, in retrospect, everyone knows that it happened, that he bought the fucking company. So it's possible, like, even though we're still a good 6, 7, 8 months away from the war really starting, it's possible that he's already started with the, hey, man, hey, you want to, you know, come work for me exclusively and, you know, go from here? Because, you know, I'm planning on taking over the world. And it does make sense that he bought the company in 82 and it took him until 83 to do something. And actually, what are we? We're at 83. Okay, so here's something funny, and I, you know, don't remember noting this when we last talked about this. So technically, Sheik has been back a handful of times, but he's never been on TV again. His last TV match we saw in January of 82 against Junkyard Dog. He's done some random house shows. In October of 82, he had a series of strap matches with Iron Mike Sharp and Colonel Buck Robley, of all people. And then he's actually recently done a few shows putting over Chavo Guerrero and Butch Reed, and that's it. He's not coming back to TV. It's possible that was the plan, but that's not what happened here. And there's not going to be any Jim Duggan, and that's where, like I said, it gets a little weird because Iron Sheik is a primary character on these shows, despite the fact that the Iron Sheik will never be on these shows again. And the funny thing is, like, and I mentioned Vince, like, he wasn't even in the WWE at the time. He was in Georgia as his primary location. So you would think, like, if they really wanted him, it wouldn't have been terribly difficult. But, oh well, what can you do, I guess? It's 1983. It's easy to look back and, point fingers and complain. But, so we're going to see what goes on here, because Duggan and DiBiase, they've agreed to go their separate ways, or at least Duggan's agreed to go his separate ways, but he still has a beef with Akbar. But now let's go to our unadvertised cage match for the vacant North American title. It is Junkyard Dog versus Mr. Olympia with General Skandor Akbar. The story that they're telling is Olympia had no idea it was a cage match until him and Akbar went out to the ring for the match. Watts claimed this is a well-concealed secret, and let's be honest, even if that is the case, even if, like, we're pretending wrestling's real, we're pretending that Mr. Olympia and I'm assuming the Junkyard Dog had no idea this was going to happen, going from there, they didn't see a big-ass steel cage, just sitting in the backstage area. They didn't, hear the noise and take a peek at the curtain to see what the hell was going on. Apparently, like, nobody else saw it either. Like, none of Olympia's friends saw it and went running to tell him. None of Dog's friends saw it and went running to tell him. Just big-ass fucking secret. Let's go with it, right? So, do you remember the WWF big blue cage that everyone gives shit to because it looks like a jungle gym to climb up on? They had pretty much the exact same cage. Like, it wasn't blue. I mean, it may have been, but you couldn't really tell. But, it was the jungle gym cage. And so Olympia tries to run away, but shockingly, Dog would not just allow him to just leave and had his foot in the ropes. Akbar had... So here's where it got weird, and maybe, Soli lost, whatever with the battery, but they covered it up by saying Akbar pulled the power cord on the camera. So there's chunks of the match missing. So the Black Ninja ran in to interfere and spewed the green spleen at Dog. A fan threw a beer in Dog's face to get rid of it as Olympia puts on a sleeper hold. And I'm serious when I say this. A fan jumped the guardrail, or, I mean, it's not really a guardrail. It's like even less than the bike rack. But the fan jumped over and threw beer at Dog's face to get that stuff out of his face and eyes, which, let's be honest, you would never see that happen today. Olympia puts on the sleeper hold. They go down to the mat. And if you remember the finish of the tournament match that led to this, somehow the referee, got bumped and he counted while Dog was on his stomach. Well, this time he counted someone's shoulders to the mat. However, he counted Mr. Olympia's shoulders down because Olympia had the sleeper hold on. They go to the mat and his shoulders were on the mat and he got counted down and out. So Junkyard Dog is your official North American champion, and Mr. Olympia is pissed. I will say it's a bit of a convoluted way to take the title from Stagger Lee and put it on Junkyard Dog, but this is what we went with. So let's go to a promo here with General Skandor Akbar and Mr. Olympia, who are pissed.
Going back to March 21st in New Orleans, the North American title tournament night. We were denied the title after you put the man... They could have counted to 200 and the Dog would have never woken. And now they try to put more swerves mid-south. They stop payment on the check, the board meeting, the so-called board meeting of snakes. Then they deny everything. And in the Superdome, the most illustrious wrestling match of its type in the whole world, we go out with Ted DiBiase. And we successfully defend the newly won Mid-South coveted tag team titles. Then, double duty, the man goes and pays his dues again. It's double duty time. He's facing Dog in a special challenge. And we get to the ring, and I have never, in all of my career, and I'll go back a long time, ever see A cage put around a match, never advertised, in New Orleans, in the Superdome of all things.
And I put him to sleep. I put him to sleep.
Exactly.
And they count my shoulders out, and I don't get the belt. I don't get the money. I don't get nothing.
But I will tell you this, Mid-South. You listen, Smith, and you Lay, and everybody connected and associated with Mid-South, my attorneys. Tonight, this time, you won't get away with it. We're ready for all contingents. We're ready for everybody. Mr. Olympia's got a vendetta.
I'm going to settle it, too.
You viewed it, and you listened to what they had to say, but still, the Junkyard Dog is the new North American heavyweight champion, but you and I know, and we realize deep down inside, that General Skandor Akbar will not rest on his laurels, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Mr. Olympia and Ted DiBiase will be after that North American heavyweight title. We have more interesting things to come right after this important message.
You know, I didn't note this, but that cage match, they did a fantastic job of giving, you know, both men something out of the finish. Because Dog won. Dog got his hand raised. That's what everybody in New Orleans wanted to see. Was the Junkyard Dog win the match, win the title, stand tall. He has a $10,000, and he cleanly pinned Mr. Olympia. There is legitimately no controversy in the fact that he pinned Mr. Olympia's shoulders to the mat. He gets the win. He gets the title. He gets the bragging rights to go along with it. However, everything you just heard Akbar and Olympia scream about is 100% true. They got screwed out of the North American title in the title tournament. It's not Mr. Olympia's fault that, you know, that referee fucked up and counted when Dog was on his stomach. It's not Mr. Olympia's fault that, you know, they raised his hand in victory. You know, what the hell? Like, you know, yeah, okay, fine. He's a heel, and maybe he should have just, you know, given up the win if he was such an honorable person, but he's not. He's a heel. And but at the end of the day, he got screwed there. Then he gets screwed by, you know, again, wrestling's real. They're supposed to agree to these stipulations ahead of time. But nope, we're going to do a surprise cage match that neither man knew about. Which, okay, yeah, if neither man knows about it, it is fair. However, we've also seen numerous occasions of Mid-South being blatantly unfair in favoring the Junkyard Dog. However, still, you want to argue that neither man knew, fine. Well, that's still unfair to both men because neither man was given the ability to prepare for a cage match. Because again, you know, wrestling's real. You have strategy for each match, and the rules surrounding each match, you know, have different strategies. And so, yeah, like in real life, Akbar and Olympia should be able to go and get a court injunction to hold up the North American title even more because they never agreed to a cage match. But this story is not over. You know, don't worry. Olympia and the Dog are still at it. But let's move on to the rest of the show. Now, for the rest of the show, we do go back to the cozy confines of the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. And first, we're going to hear from the newly full-time in Mid-South Wrestling, King Kong Bundy. Yes, he's officially done with World Class, as we mentioned a few weeks ago, and he's officially a full-timer here in Louisiana. Let's go to a promo from Bundy.
You know, when I talk about Devastation Incorporated, I want you people to know what Devastation Incorporated is. I have trainers. I have financial advisors. I have people that take care of every facet of my business. And one of my advisors has come up with something brand new, something from the East. Something from the East, something people down the South have never heard of, could never possibly think of. It's called the Atlantic City Avalanche. And I'm going to unveil the Avalanche tonight. And when you see it, ain't nobody going to believe it. It's 420 pounds crushing somebody. And when these promoters see it, they're going to realize you can't hold back King Kong Bundy anymore. I'm going to have the opponents I want. Junkyard Dog, Mr. Wrestling 2, Tiger Conway, Hacksaw Reed, Dusty Rhodes, and Andre the Giant. That's right, Andre the Giant. You're going to feel the Atlantic City Avalanche too. Nobody's safe from it. You're going to see it, but ain't nobody going to believe it.
So Bundy is debuting a new move. Yes, a new move. here on this week's episode, the Atlantic City Avalanche that he's gotten from the East. Not the Far East, mind you. It's just the east of the United States, so New Jersey. And it's something people in the South have never seen before. 1 second, I got a tickle in my throat. Sorry about that. But, so, this is going to be big. You know, we've got the Atlantic City Avalanche with Bundy, and he's going to unleash it here. However, he still is obsessed with people who don't actually work in Mid-South, like Dusty Rhodes and Andre the Giant. Now, of course, Andre, he comes in a couple times a year, and we've seen him on the show, and I'm sure he'll be back. We'll talk about it when he's here. Dusty, the story of Dusty in Mid-South is always funny because if you remember the story from, you know, when we started doing this way back when, the story was that Dusty Rhodes had signed an exclusive contract with Mid-South Sports where he's going to be a full-time wrestler and be booked out of the Mid-South office. And, of course, then we never saw him again. It's hilarious. And despite that, he's still a semi-regularly named character on this program. Anywho, let's go to the match here. It's King Kong Bundy versus Don Clark. Bundy goes for an elbow, but Clark ducked under it, and then stood there because he realized he wasn't supposed to duck it, so they did the same exact spot, and this time, shockingly, Clark ran into the elbow and bumped off of it. Clark then went to the turnbuckles and was supposed to stand there for a corner splash, but he dropped to his knees. So Bundy had to wait for Clark to get back up, and he splashed him in the corner and then pinned him with the Atlantic City Avalanche, which, and I hope everyone's sitting down. I'll be getting real quiet here because, you know, I need to tell you what this big special move, the Atlantic City Avalanche, never before seen in the South, never before seen. The Atlantic City Avalanche was essentially the Oklahoma Stampede. It's the same goddamn move that Dr. Death does, that, you know, Bill Watts did. You know, it's a running power slam, people. And I guess that's where the heat is supposed to be. But I guess we'll just wait and see how this progresses. We then get the Black Ninja with General Skandor Akbar versus Ken Woodby. Ninja was having his normal dull match when the crowd began popping for some weird reason. And that weird reason is because Jim Duggan has arrived. Duggan has arrived. He sends Ninja out of the ring. Ninja catches his leg in the ropes. And then Duggan begins beating Akbar, much to the delight of the fans. He rips Akbar's pants, and he was left beaten and battered as new, nearly top babyface Jim Duggan stands tall to the delight of the fans. North American champion Junkyard Dog versus Ron Cheatham. Dog debuts new music, Atomic Dog. I don't think it lasts long. Mostly because, you know, if it's not fixed, don't. If it's not fixed, don't. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Jesus Christ! If you don't know how to speak, don't talk. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And don't worry, he'll be back to his old music soon enough. So this is the first time we've had a dog match on TV in quite a while, and it's also like, I don't know how it wasn't obvious before, but it's also painfully obvious here that he is starting to gain weight. Because even though he was never svelte, you know, especially if you go back to those 82 shows, you know, he was trim, he was a little ripped, you know, he had a little bit of, you know, baby fat, but like, he looked good. Like, he looked like an athlete here. Like, now he's getting into that 1985 WWF Junkyard Dog look, where, you know, he's eating a few extra Twinkies than he probably needs to, do a little less exercise than he should be. But, hey, you know, the fans still love him. But he wins with a thump here. Shockingly, Ron Cheatham did not defeat Junkyard Dog. Then it was time for what is technically the main event, even though it's not really the main event, but it is the expiration of time match. Mr. Olympia with Ted DiBiase versus Art Cruz. Akbar's not out here because he's got his needle and thread trying to hem his pants in the dressing room. Of course, Watts spends most of this match talking about what's going on with Duggan and DiBiase and tells us that next week it's going to be Mr. Wrestling 2 versus King Kong Bundy, which is Bundy's first competitive match. Cruz made a comeback but got cut off with a leg lariat. Olympia dropped him with a pile driver and won with the sleeper hold. So to end the show, Akbar is going to rejoin the desk in his torn clothing and scream about, what's going on.
If we can get the camera over here, we've got General Skandor.
It's the American way, Duggan. The prouder of people. We don't do any dastardly attacks from behind. A man of my pride and distinction. Humiliation. Oh, if only Kamala were here next week. But he's got an important commitment in Dallas, Texas. But wait just a minute. DiBiase, come here. Come here. You saw what happened out there, DiBiase. I want this man eliminated. Boy, I'm going to eliminate you, Duggan. Nobody humiliates a general like that. I'm pulling out all stops, DiBiase. All stops. Money is no object. I want Duggan eliminated. You understand?
Wait a minute. Everybody knows that Duggan and I we've split sheets. We've gone our separate ways. Look, the man doesn't want to be a member of the Rat Pack anymore. That's his business. That's his problem, because now he's out there on his own. But he's a former member of the Rat Pack, and as long as he doesn't interfere in my matches or in the Mid-South Tag Team titles, then I will not fight the man. I'm not afraid of him, but he's a former Rat Pack member, and I
All right, I'll get the ninja. All right, I'll eliminate you, boy. And you'll think it's Christmas in May because we'll spray you so green. You'll never show up again. Nobody does that to the general and walks around and talk about it.
All right. So a lot to digest there in between, Akbar's normal screaming. The big thing is, of course, that, that DiBiase is not going to interfere with Jim Duggan as long as Jim Duggan doesn't interfere with him or interfere with the tag team titles. He's like, at the moment, it's let bygones be bygones. Let everyone do their thing and just move on from there. And hey, as I'm sure everyone can figure out, that theory does not last forever. But, we're going to see how long it goes and go from there. And so Akbar is going to send the ninja after Jim Duggan. And I think I speak for everybody when I say, let's hope Jim Duggan kicks the ninja's ass. But that does it for the Mid-South Wrestling, fun episode. We went on the road to the Superdome, and being on the road is always fun, let's be honest. And plus, we've got storyline advancement. We have the Jim Duggan Ted DiBiase split is official. We know what Duggan's thoughts are on everything. And this is something we've been wondering now for a month. But, we're going to move forward here. We're going to do a hop, skip, and jump from Shreveport to Dallas and go to World Class. So this is World Class Championship Wrestling, April 30th, 1983, from the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. Let's go to Bill Mercer with the intro of this week's show.
Welcome to World Class Championship Wrestling from the Sportatorium in downtown Dallas, Texas. And we have a tremendous main event. It features David Von Erich and the Iceman King Parsons against Michael Hayes and the other Freebird, Buddy Roberts. All this on World Class Championship Wrestling. Here's David Von Erich and the Iceman right now, just walking in. David, hiya, bud. Ice, we don't have enough seats. Step right on in here. Well, it's good to see you guys. Texas champion.
Oh, hey. Last time was one of the greatest days in my entire life. I won that Texas title back. I beat Jimmy Garvin and his little precious girl, Sunshine, in Dallas, Texas. All of Texas, everybody who's watching me here, I'm one of the proudest Texans there is alive today, and I just thank the Lord for it.
And, of course, they got Hayes and Roberts in this one.
Oh, yeah, tonight, I'm looking forward to teaming up with the Iceman. I've never done this before. The Iceman's style and mine is different. There's no doubt about it. The Freebirds, anytime the Von Erichs can step inside the ring with one of y'all, any of y'all, you know that the sparks are going to fly, and you know that we're going to come out on top because it happens every time.
Iceman, one word.
Yes, sir. You know, I have to say, baby, I'm one of the happiest men in the world. You know why? Because I'm tagging with one of the Von Edge. And, brother, it's an honor. I'm happy. And we're going to get down this evening because we got soul. We can do it all. Hold it.
All right.
We're going to book it.
Well, we got to go. And we got to go to that first match with the Mongol with World Class Wrestling next.
Okay. So, Iceman Parsons, and you couldn't really hear him much there at the end, but, you know, Bill Mercer is desperately trying to end this interview so they can go to the ring for the first match. And Iceman's just talking. Even once they pulled the microphone away from him, he's still talking. And, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be him and David Von Erich today in the main event against Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. It's kind of funny because David, as I think we've mentioned before, but David has won the Texas title back. He beat Jimmy Garvin for it. He says that this was one of the greatest days of his life. Good for him. And by the way, Mercer at the beginning, and it's hilarious that Iceman, wouldn't shut up, and Mercer had to yank the mic away from him. When they come in, first of all, Iceman had to stand. He had to stand behind David, and then Mercer reaches his hand out to shake David Von Erich's hand, and David, I'm sure he didn't do this on purpose, but David just flat out ignored him and is pantomiming to the crowd and all this shit. And Iceman basically leans in and shakes Mercer's hand. I'd like to believe Mercer would have eventually shaken the man's hand, but still. So main event, it's David Von Erich and King Parsons, as we mentioned, against Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. But before we get to the main event, we got to talk about the opener. So it's the Mongol with our good friend, General Skandor Akbar, who, yes, is all over every fucking show we talk about, except Smoky Mountain. He is not on Smoky Mountain. Versus Chris Adams. Chris Adams, who debuted last week, surprised the Mongol early, but the future dozen Luke cut off the English gentleman and choked him on the top rope. Mercer keeps calling the Mongol the Warrior, but Adams dropped him with a super kick. Which Mercer, by the way, claimed that Adams must have learned in the Orient. Okay? Adams did the best job I've ever seen selling how difficult it would be to give another man a body slam. Suddenly a Young Bucks match broke out as Adams hit super kick after super kick after super kick. Finally, Mongol tossed Adams over the top rope for the disqualification. Adams got back in the ring and dropped Mongol with a missile drop kick. However, the fight continued with the referee trying and failing at breaking them up. Some more referees ran in, and eventually, these three tiny men held the two large men apart. From here, let's go to back to Bill Mercer, who's at ringside with a good friend of something else. Well, not really, but, a veteran of something else, Chavo Guerrero.
With Chavo Guerrero at ringside. I want to talk a little bit about, you're kind of in a charro outfit here.
Outfit, that's right.
Yeah.
Charro is the where the cowboy came from,
Right.
because when the Spanish conquered the Aztecs, they brought this, the cows and the horses. So they brought the system of how to ranch and all this. So yeah, this is a charro outfit. And I was born in Mexico City, raised in the United States. I am now an American citizen. But, I grew up, when I grew up in Mexico City, we had the range and the horses. And I'm very proud to be a Latin, but I'm also very proud to be living in the United States.
And you're here, and we're happy to have you here because you're an exciting wrestler. You have a wrestling background. Your father was a wrestler.
Yes, sir. My dad, my brothers come from a wrestling family and did a lot of amateur wrestling in college, coached it for a while, and now I'm professional. So I'm been all over the world, been world champion 3 times in the junior heavyweight division. And I am here in Texas, and this has always been my goal to come to Texas and succeed in Texas because I went to school at the University of Texas at El Paso. And what else is there but to succeed in your own home?
Well, what sort of goals do you have in mind right now? Succeeding and winning, but...
Well, of course, the major goal in your life is to become the world's heavyweight champion, of course. This is the maximum. And the goal in life is, in the wrestling, is to succeed. And my immediate goal right now is to succeed in the state of Texas because this is where the competition is, and this is my home. This is where I want to succeed.
It's a pleasure having you with us. I really like your outfit. I attended a charreada once. Charreada.
Charreada is a Mexican rodeo.
Yeah, fantastic time.
I would just like to say a couple of words in Spanish. Amigos, estoy aquí, soy mexicano. Espero conocerlos. Los invito a que vengan a verme aquí. Y como siempre, viva México. Muchas gracias. Les brindo esta lucha. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chavo Guerrero. That's Chavo Guerrero. He'll be right back with some excitement in the ring with gorgeous Jim Garvin right after this.
He does not wrestle gorgeous Jim Garvin. He wrestles gorgeous Jim Garvin. And also, for the Spanish translation of what Chavo just said at the end, he said lucha, which means wrestling, and he said muchas gracias, which means thank you. And then he said some other stuff that I did not catch, because I don't speak Spanish. I'm sure he was cursing out the world, and it was like, hey, can you imagine these gringo motherfuckers? You know, they have no idea what the hell I'm saying. I could be talking about anything. I could be talking about how I eat apples, and no one knows what the hell I'm saying here. But we're just going to act like I am. And as long as I've got a smile on my face, the people, you know, who don't know any better are going to cheer. So, yay! That's probably what he said. Yeah. The other note, and I'm sure this is going to be one of those times where, you know, people listening are more educated than me. Bill Mercer mentions Chavo's Charro outfit. Now, in case you're curious, in case you were not, you know, more educated than I am, he was not talking about Charro like Coochie Coochie. He was talking about the outfit that was worn by people in a stereotypical mariachi band. Picture that outfit. That's what Chavo was wearing here. They talk about Chavo's family. Not sure if you know this or not, but Chavo has a family full of wrestlers. I know, right? Anyway, he's happy to be wrestling in America. He's happy to be wrestling in Texas and would like to become the world champion. So to the ring, we have gorgeous Jim Garvin with Sunshine versus Chavo Guerrero. This is the first time we've seen Garvin in the ring since he won the Texas title. And, of course, since then, he's also lost the Texas title. The code of honor is enforced before the match. Chavo took over Garvin with a few head scissors, which caused Garvin to roll out of the ring and check to make sure his hair is okay. Inside the ring, Chavo did another flying head scissors, but kept on the scissors when they went to the mat. Garvin needed to regroup again and screamed that Chavo had grease all over him. Whether or not that's true, Garvin finally took over as they got back into the ring. Chavo slapped on a surfboard as Garvin sold it like his arms and his legs are about to snap off and hit me in the throat that made me unable to talk. With 30 seconds left in the time limit, they stood in the ring and exchanged blows. Chavo got the better of it and got a near fall as the bell rang and the time has run out as we've ended in a time limit draw. After the match, Sunshine yelled at Chavo, and then, and I'm not going to play this because there wasn't anything to it, we went to our ringside correspondent, Monica Hunter, with Jimmy Garvin. He said he thinks someone's sending in a ringer because he has all the films and doesn't know what happened. The promo just abruptly ended, you know, much like the match. So then we get a fun, you know, almost parade of people in this match. Kamala in a 2-on-1 handicap match against Tom Renesto and Bill Radke. In Renesto and Radke's corner is Armand Hussein. In Kamala's corner is Friday, the Mongol, and General Skandor Akbar. This handicap match had more people outside the ring than inside the ring. And of course, as typical with the Ugandan Giant, the pre-match is a lot longer than the actual match. Kamala pins Radke after 2 splashes to the back. Turns out this was an elimination match, as Renesto got in and got pinned after 2 splashes of his own. Armand Hussein doesn't know what to do, and I'm like, well, maybe send Tolayatsu. So let's go to Bill Mercer, who ran to the ring to interview General Skandor Akbar, instead of letting our special correspondent, Monica Hunter, do it instead.
Here with Mr. Akbar. Well, I have to say one thing. You certainly told us the truth when you said this Kamala was something almost, I guess, inhuman.
Absolutely awesome, as you can see. Kamala, this man can beat 1, 2, 3, 4 men. The big question is tonight, where's Tolayatsu? I suppose that Hussein has him hiding somewhere.
Good reason, because when you see Kamala, you've seen it all. As I've said before, world-class wrestling is synonymous with the word Von Erich, but I haven't seen any Von Erich come to this ring and accept a challenge or challenge Kamala. Could it be because they're chilled somewhat? I think so, because you just witnessed a man destroy two men, and I've said before, maybe three, maybe four, and the Mongol is a very capable wrestler in Devastation Incorporated. He is my personal bodyguard. He's with me all the time, Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Akbar. It was an interesting night. We shall have more excitement with David Von Erich and the Iceman coming up.
All right. So, Akbar asked what I was asking. Where the hell is Tolyatsu? Why is Armand Hussein sending all these enhancement talent after Kamala and not just sending the big man? The man who's beaten, all these people in Devastation Incorporated, but apparently afraid to get into the ring now with Kamala. Go figure. And the other thing, and, obviously we're trying to set up something here now with, Kamala possibly against the Von Erichs, because the Von Erichs, they're not getting involved. They're not taking up on Kamala's challenge. Now, of course, Von Erichs have their own thing to worry about with the Freebirds, but still, you're not going to let these baby faces, get called out for very long without them saying anything. So speaking of the Von Erichs, 1/3 of them are in the main event. It's David Von Erich and Iceman King Parsons versus Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. So Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine also come to ringside to observe this match. Iceman started by backdropping Roberts repeatedly. Roberts tried a single leg takedown, but Parsons flipped Roberts over on his ass. The fans were chanting they wanted Hayes. No, not because they were psyched up to see Hayes and wanted to see his technical prowess, but because they wanted to see him get his ass kicked. Hayes did try getting in the ring to break up a head scissors, but was chased out of the ring by the referee. So he tries creeping around the ring, but David ran him down and forced him back to his corner. Gotta say, you're supposed to listen to the fans. The fans want Hayes. Sure, like I said, they want to see him get his ass kicked, but still, the fans want Michael Hayes, and they're not giving him to him. Yeah. So Hayes finally tags in once. Roberts had control. He used the fist drop, but because this is 1983 and all African Americans have hard heads, it hurt Hayes' hand. Roberts gets back in the ring, and finally the Freebirds get a sustained advantage as Hayes put his knee into the back of Parsons. Even that didn't last long as Parsons made the hot tag to David. David gets on the claw, and we get a four-way here. The faces Irish whip the heels together, and somehow Michael bounces into David, who flies over the top rope. David, by the way, so David's on the ground. He's starting to get up, and Sunshine's got her video camera over there filming David. And David gets up and threatens to punch Sunshine because why not? Beating up women in 1983 makes you babyface. So Garvin, just seeing his woman get threatened, punches David himself, knocking him down, which, by the way, the referee does not see. Hayes then drags David back into the ring and pinned him. I literally had to go back and watch because I assumed I missed something here. But no, Sunshine was shooting her camera close to David, and that was enough to make him angry and threaten violence on a woman. So Garvin hit David, actually hit him with the camera, which makes slightly more sense, except David gets up and walks to the ring in order to be dragged in and pinned. Go figure. Not everything is going to make sense. So we don't end the show with a end of show promo like we usually do. We also don't go on the road, sadly, because we love all of our little skits where we go on the road to meet the wrestlers. Neither of those happen this week. But next week we do have a 6-man tag match. Terry Von Erich, Iceman Parsons, and Chavo Guerrero versus all 3 Freebirds in a penalty box match. Yes. So that all is to come next week. And that's going to do it for this week. Another fun episode. We are on the road to 100 episodes. Technically, if you count the 4 bonus episodes I've done, it's 95. If you count The 54 Smoky Mountain shows I've done, that's 149 or 150 or whatever. I've lost my count of how many fucking shows I got. But yeah, we're not counting that. Instead, we're closing in on 100 episodes of something else, and we're going to have a surprise for you right around the time we get to 100. I got to count these off, see when 100 is, but I think it coincides with a big surprise. But that's going to do it for this week. I don't have the music queued up, so we're just going to end things without the music. I do want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.